Okay. And here we go. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today for the third week of the FCI live series for fall 2021. This is our final week of the series, and we have some terrific topics for you this week I'm really excited about. This one is going to be with the Columinate team. Hopefully you know Columinate and their work. I approached them, as I said, about you guys want to, is there something cutting edge, really important conversation you want to share with the community? This is the one they chose, and there was a terrific response. I'm glad to see so many of you here. They're going to talk about emerging funding trends happening for startup food co-ops. So we're grateful to them for being here. And with that, I'm going to hand it all over to Mark.
Thanks, Jeku, and pleasure to be here. Our format for today is to do a quick round of introductions for the people that we brought together to share perspectives with you all. Then we're going to do a go round of really having those perspectives shared. And I've asked everyone to really think about, what have we learned? What do we see? So less of a workshop, but more about sharing wisdom on what's possible and emerging. And then we'll step back from that go around and ask our contributors and you all to connect some dots from what you heard, what we all heard. And somewhere along the way there, we'll be really open to questions to help drill into, specifics that y'all might have. And we're wrapping it at 1 hour, so it'll be pretty tightly managed. I'll start with a short introduction for myself. So I'm Mark Goring. I have the great pleasure and honor to be the manager of Columinate. In the startup world, I've been involved in our consulting co-op since the early days when the phone started ringing and there were emerging groups around the country, and the reaction from national leader was to form the Food Co-op 500 group and to start, putting some structure to how to be helpful. When the folks at Food Co-op Initiative asked, what do you see as important? I'm a big fan of the 4 cornerstones and 3 stages model, and the vision and talent, I think, are cornerstones that organizing groups can really get their arms around, because you can, can kind of conjure up vision and you can see the people sitting on the couch with you. Systems, I think, is a little bit, more complicated to sort out. And then capital has kind of been the great mystery. And yet at the end of the day is the fuel that really helps things move. And I'm hopeful that today we'll hear some perspectives about emerging trends in capital that will be helpful to your groups and co-op development, in the coming decade. Really, I think we're hopefully on some emerging trends that will have some lasting impact. So I'm super pleased to introduce 4 people that we brought together. 3 are part of the Columinate team, and 1 is a client and person who I have a lot of respect for, Molly Hartman at the Reinvestment Fund. Molly, if you would introduce yourself first, that would be great.
Sure, sure, great. Hi. Wonderful to be here and to see all of you and some familiar faces and some new names as well. I'm Molly Hartman. I'm the program director for the Healthy Food Financing Initiative at Reinvestment Fund. And Reinvestment Fund is a community development financial institution, a CDFI. We are based in Philadelphia. We have offices in Baltimore and Atlanta, and we work regionally and nationally to invest in projects that are underserved by traditional financial institutions and that align with our mission around housing, economic development, access to health care, and food, which has been a priority for us for many years. We provide loans, grants, and offer technical assistance to food retail projects in all stages of development, and have worked extensively with the co-op community. over the past couple of years.
Yay. And thanks for being here, Molly, and contributing. Leila Klein.
Hey everyone, my name is Leila Klein. I am with I co-founded a nonprofit called Co-op Dayton, which works in Dayton, Ohio to create cooperatives. I was also the project manager of the Gem City Market, which just opened in May as a startup cooperative with a lot of support from JQ and Mark and others. And I also support some of the startup co-ops through Columinate as a consultant, particularly doing kind of like coaching and support around some of the challenges during early startup, capitalization strategies, and just sort of generally being somebody who people can bounce ideas off of as they're going through what I just kind of went through over the past 5 or 6 years of developing a startup cooperative.
Nice. Thanks for being here, Leila. Casa Heron, thank you for being here.
Greetings. My name is Casa Heron. I come to you from Louisville, Kentucky, land that was once occupied by the Cherokee, Shawnee, Osage, Miami indigenous groups. I identify as an abolitionist. I've been trained as a community organizer and urban planner, and I do work as a consultant and as a writer. And I too co-founded a co-op group here in Louisville called the Louisville Association for Community Economics. And we're a community educator about cooperative development and becoming a nonprofit cooperative developer. And our first project is the Louisville Community Grocery. I just wanted to make just some opening statements. I'm a little tender today. It's been a little rough. There was a shooting this morning at a bus stop in my community, and it's tough.
Yeah.
And the connection between folks needing food and needing a place to live is really resonant with this work in looking at co-op development as a way to reorganize our economy. That's what brought me here. I've spent the last 2 decades working on an agricultural transition in Kentucky, and then found myself working on energy policy. And it all makes sense to me for us to collectively own our assets and resources and do work together. So that's what has brought me to the Columinate team.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing that. Ben Sandell.
Hi, I'm Ben Sandell. I am part of Columinate. I work with a number of co-ops on their capital campaigns, on helping them get ready and then implement to raise lots of money from their communities. I also, a long time ago, was part of the founding team of my local food co-op, Friendly City Food Co-op, that just celebrated its 10th anniversary with an expansion. So they do open, and many of them do just great. So happy to be here.
Thanks all of you for participating. And so now we're going to do another go around, and the kind of framing question is, from your perspective, what's different about capital access for co-op development? Like, what's shifted? And when you think about those shifts, what's important for organizing groups to keep in mind to be able to take advantage of what's emerging, right? So, and if you want to vary the framing question, feel free, but that's kind of how I'm thinking of it myself, and we'll kind of see what happens. And for the participants, just know we're not going to do the workshop, the how-to, but there's that balance, give and take of storytelling about how something happened in order to shine a light on what that trend is. So no, we'll see. And so we're going to go Molly, Leila, Casa, and Ben in that order. So Molly, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things that we talked about a little bit in our prep session for this was the continuum of capital, from member equity and the co-op world, restricted grants for specific purposes, technical assistance, all the way up to recoverable grants, forgivable loans, and more complicated debt and real estate transactions. And that's something we think about a lot here at Reinvestment Fund. When people come to us, they might be seeking debt, but they're really more of an earlier stage when they're looking for a grant would really, be needed for a lot of those pre-development costs. And we know that it can take a long time to build the kind of co-op you want to run and that is going to be successful. And that's one of the reasons, we've been partnering with Columinate to offer technical assistance to early stage co-ops and offer those resources free of charge when you're just getting up and started. I'll also say that, as a CDFI, in the CDFI community, we are, traditionally lenders, but patient lenders. So we want to work with borrowers on, credit requirements, on terms and rates, when you are ready for debt. So you have a loan that works for you and that you can pay back. And increasingly, we're seeing an interest in tools outside of loans. Co-ops have always been a great partner and borrower for that kind of thing. And at Reinvestment Fund, we have, as many of you know, the National Healthy Food Financing Initiative, which at this point is a grant and technical assistance program. And that's special money for a special purpose, which is to provide resources, often in early stage of grocery development, in areas and for communities that haven't been well served by other sources of funding. So we're really prioritizing rural communities, and we're excited to see the growth of rural co-ops and conversions into co-ops. Communities of color and Black-led cooperatives, and projects that have, a regional food system connection, projects that have a priority for quality jobs, and projects that unlock other sources of capital. So that's sort of where our thoughts are as a national CDFI, and we're excited to see, the way the rest of the industry is going as well.
Nice, great start, Molly. Thank you for that. Leela, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so it's hard to say kind of what has changed because I'm relatively new to the cooperative movement myself, but what I've noticed is a lot of creativity around capital sources, just as Molly says, finding and also the ways in which they might mix. So my primary experience is with the Gem City Market, where we took a look at our initial look at the cooperative model was that, you raise equity from your members, and then you pair that with member loans, and then you bring all that equity together and use it to leverage debt, typically from a friendly CDFI. Well, we knew going in that the amount of kind of like access to equity within the community was probably going to be a big challenge for us because we are in a relatively low wealth community. A community that's been impacted by redlining and divestment and deindustrialization. So in Dayton, Ohio, in our primary trade area, the median household income is about $28,000. And so we wanted to set a share price that was accessible to people because we knew we wanted a lot of people to be owners and participate. We wanted to also offer membership prices that could be accessible to people, even those on a very low income or whose family was receiving food stamps. So we set a $100 membership share price and then a $10 solidarity share price. And so we knew that we would likely have to look for other sources to get us to a place where we could actually access lending. And so we were able to figure out ways to bring in grants. We sought and were able to receive state, local, city, and federal funding dollars, grant dollars, through partnerships with our local community college and elsewhere. And then we were able to receive a new market tax credit and then ultimately some lending through a CDFI. So we really just had to be kind of aggressive and creative. I won't talk as much about government support today, because actually CASA is sort of the champion and expert on that, and has done some of the most impressive work in that area. But happy to talk more about the new market tax credit process and how we were able to bring sort of traditional philanthropy in, even though the grocery store is not a 501c3. I think my biggest takeaway from the process was just that you have to be, it's really important to have, if you can, somebody who is a dedicated staff person who can actually be out seeking opportunities. And that we found we had to do a lot of speed dating dating over the course of multiple years with various finance partners. And then you just don't know which of those are going to bear fruit. Like there are CDFIs that I've met with like 20 times on this project who aren't in the who didn't end up in our capital stack. But in the end, bringing all the pieces together so you complete the puzzle just requires a lot of agility, determination, and openness to have a lot of coffees and just ask a lot of good questions and do it over the course of a couple of years. So you can't just start a relationship the day before you need the capital. It's important to be, kind of talking to folks for a long time. So I'll stop there, but happy to say.
It's really great. Leela, if you just add one little factoid for scale, what was your total capital project? What did you bring in for the Gem City Market project?
Yeah, if you include the capital side and the operations side, it's a total of just over $7 million.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, well, thanks for that, Casa Heron.
So my brain is going. Leela and Molly had a lot to share. Ditto what they both shared, and I will contextualize that to Louisville. Molly's right on in terms of like the kinds of co-ops that are emerging, and they're emerging not because people have choices, but because this has become the only choice for people. So yes, right on rural co-ops. I've got folks in Kentucky and in smaller counties who are watching our work and really championing us so I can finish this and start helping them do co-ops where people have to travel the county line to go to a Walmart in some counties in Kentucky. So certainly, rural co-ops, co-ops that are in communities of color. And for us, it's been an answer to this food system problem that we have. And so I would also just suggest that the other emerging co-ops, or what I hope to see, is that folks are entering this work as disruptors, as innovators in the food system. We can't just have any old grocery store. We've got to have grocery stores that are really speaking to the needs of our collective economy, really shifting things. So that's how we entered this space. we're foodies, and we're really looking for some way to make a big impact on not just providing food for people who need food, which is the thing that needs to happen, but we're also expanding markets for local and regionally produced food, whether it's Miss May's pies down the street, or it's Ben and Bree's arugula a county over. And because of those things, I think place is important. Where the location, where the grocery store is going to be located, the market means that you attract different funders, different investors because of that. Our goal is to go in pretty lean on debt, which means that we're looking for a lot of philanthropic partners, and we're looking for folks who are going to invest and give us long money and give that back. Our ownership shares are $150, and we offer an advantage share for $25 for low-income seniors and low-income young people, and really encouraging individuals in our communities, particularly the foodies in our community, to match their $150 with a $125 to offset those $25 shares. I think that right now, I know for our co-op, we've been at it for 6 years. We've raised all of our money in the past 18 months. And there's something to be said right now about this time that we're in. this moment that we're in. And unfortunately here in Louisville, dead Black bodies on the streets has meant that people are looking at us and looking at me as a leader just a little bit more with some intention, and looking at us as we're serious. We're not just, this kind of edge project. We're really becoming innovators in our local community development sector. Leila talked about relationships and, I want to say relationships are important, but it's so much more than that. It's how those relationships are developed over time. The funders that are funding us locally certainly did not want to fund us, but it's because they had to, because the power is shifting and we have a badass project. And they have not been able to really fund projects on this scale that are led by Black people, that are led by, regular grassroots individuals, folks who have never served on boards before, very intergenerational leadership. And so the funding that we really needed and that's been important for us is funding that supports our leadership. I was fortunate to get a fellowship from Common Future last year that basically paid my time so that I could do the thing that Leila said, go out and build those relationships. Before that, we had been organizing for 5 years, and I said hadn't really gotten much money. Molly and her team funded us. They led to the relationship with Columinate, and Leila has been our lead consultant in their team. But having that money that supports the leaders, and having that money that really supports the beginning is what leverages the rest of the capital. I'll stop there.
Yay, that was wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Ben Sandell.
Yeah, well, yes to everything that has just been said. And especially, I see the world has changed and our country has changed, is still in this state of change. And that is important for our co-ops. I think we are in some of the changes that occurred because of the pandemic, we are seen as a genuine alternative that takes far more care for our staff and our community health. I think that's a very positive thing. We've always been that way, I believe, but now it's clearer. And I would say going back to sometime before that, some of the changes that we're seeing are that yes, the economy, it's becoming clear to far more people that our economy must change, that we have to think about post-capitalism and a new way of doing things. And our cooperatives are beautifully positioned to, just by what we are ready for a new economy, for a new way of serving people. And we can capitalize on that. And certainly the last year and a half, I think there's been a lot of money that has begun to come out of various state and federal programs to shift the economy, but they're usually masked under that they're there to promote local vibrancy, local financial success, and those are really important. It's gotten much more complicated. The capital stack has gotten a lot more complex for new co-ops, but that's not a bad thing. It means there's lots more areas to find capital, and I always think it's a good time for co-ops to raise money and to do what they do, but I think now is an extraordinarily good time for us to be doing this work.
Thanks, Ben, and everyone who's contributed. I think you captured my impression that I've been carrying around, that something's different in the co-op development, marketplace, which is that there's capital that, is wanting to be deployed to fund community impact projects early in their stages. and that, you know, if we look at the decades view of startup, you know, history, it just didn't exist in earlier times. That the you know, organizing groups were focused on raising money from members and getting an angel gift here and there to help a little bit of progress happen. And I think Casa and Lila, you both described what happens if there's funding available to an organizing group, and actually you can deal with your development process in a holistic, planned manner and not have it be stop, start, stop, start, stop, start based on, you know, the next $10,000 you know, inflow. So that's, I think you've described that impression that I've had. And now I'm curious to know from our group of panelists how you would build on what you heard from the others and yourself, and with a leaning toward, you know, given what we've just heard, what is important for an organizing group to, you know, to be able to do? Like the shift happened, the capital is available. What kind of patterns and behaviors and practices do organizing groups need to embrace in order to access it, and then actually to deliver a good track record on making something good, you know, come of deploying the capital in that way? So, and this will again use the quick go around, and then we'll go to, you know, another structure. But Molly, what would you say from your perspective? You know, what are the expectations that you have, or that your group has, for organizing groups to be able to actually take advantage of the capital that might be available?
Well, you know, we're always looking at feasibility, basically. You know, when it comes down to it, with debt as a tool, the feasibility of your project is what we're assessing. And that's, I think, why some of these pre-development services that organizing groups, the extent to which they're able to invest in doing those market studies and developing those performance, and, you know, that you all offer, that's really, really essential. And, you know, in the same way that we're seeing trends in financing, we're also seeing really, you know, substantial shifts in the grocery industry right now. And, you know, from the growth of online to shopping patterns changing because of COVID to, you know, hopefully an increase in SNAP that sticks, that will be really helpful for people, to, you know, supply chain issues. I think we really want to make sure that when you're at the point where you're ready to prepare to open, that you've thought through all of those things and you have a plan. Labor also is a big one, and we're looking at trends in labor, and would love to hear, you know, from you guys on labor trends as well. So, you know, I think it's getting those solid financials together, and that solid market study, and really, you know, finding that that local foundation money, essentially, to cover those early costs.
Cool. Thanks, Molly. Lila, how would you build?
Well, I just want to, you know, reflect on something Casa said, and then like I think Ben referred to as well, which is like the sort of like awareness and strength of the co-op case is building. I mean, there's a lot that we have that we can say with confidence about, you know, what we actually have to offer in our communities, and what this model, the power of this model. And I've really admired, I mean, I feel like I spent a lot of time like scrambling, kind of like trying to like do a song and dance and convince people of something, where I think we're in a moment now where you can walk into a room a little bit more confidently and say, like, these are the ways in which a co-op actually is, you know, has a track record of like building a more resilient community, of, you know, treating workers better, of being more involved in the local community in a way that COVID really showed that we need. And so I've been like I've reflected on, when Casa said the power has shifted in Louisville, like Casa and her colleagues have shifted that power. Like that did not happen. I mean, there was, it was from people in the streets to people just like refusing to accept less than what they deserve. That is how that power shifted. And I don't think we totally got that in Dayton. I think we're getting it more now. But yeah, I think that there's a movement connection where, when people won't accept second-class citizenship, when people won't accept, to live in neighborhoods that are, that are not serving their needs, then we can shift that power. And then just like on the jumping from a power and movement dynamic to like something a little bit more pedestrian, I think to the extent that folks can find, like making the health case to be able to find early grant money to do some of those like expensive things like pro forma development, market study, business plan, like that is a great way to take pressure off of your project and save your member capital for later. And I just think, again, there's a really strong health case to be made. So we can walk into every room of any funder who cares about health and social determinants of health and community resilience with real confidence that we have a potential solution. We just have to have the capital, we have to have the grant money to be able to do the work to see if it can actually work, in this particular location or the way that we envision it.
Nice. Thanks, Leila. Casa.
So yes, Leila's right. I've got an attitude about the lack of investment, the incompetence that we see throughout our community. And I walk into rooms, into Zoom conversations now, with that. Like, our community is fed up that our local government leaders haven't been able to get people food. We're fed up with a broken food system. We're fed up, we're tired. And so, and we've been at it for a while. I'm gonna try to respond to a few of the comments. Mm-hmm. So our co-op is Black led. Our team is very diverse. Amanda Fuller's here. She's my ace. She's the treasurer of the co-op, and I lead the nonprofit. But we have become experts because we spent a lot of time with some of you guys and other folks, and we've become the local experts, and we walk into rooms and into conversations with that. The risk is not in investing in us. The risk is in not investing in us. And that's what we tell philanthropy. Our first bit of money, a large chunk of money, was $20,000. And relationships are important. I talked about that. From the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, I met those folks more than 10 years ago when I was doing farmers market organizing. And they do community development investment financing. And so that little $20,000 we were able to do that, to use that. We were able to leverage money from a local union to pay for our market study. And then that market study, when Molly was talking about feasibility, that's what allowed us to get her capital, is that we had a market study that said that our grocery store would do well in our market. And we not only had the market study, but we had 4 years of organizing our community. And not just specifically on the co-op, we're a very diverse group of people who've spent a lot of time on other projects, and other things haven't worked. So the stars have really aligned for us here in Louisville, almost to the point that like, they have no choice but to give us money now. And so the asks are they've become a little easier. The process is kind of challenging. And really quickly, I'll share our process to get city money. So literally in the middle of protests last summer, our city was also passing the city budget. And we had folks who testified we didn't know who they were, but they testified to city government that, we want you to defund the police and we want you to put money into grocery stores and housing. And after that meeting, the president of the council came up to me and asked me if $1 million would help the grocery store project. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to fund it, but that'd be a great down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And for a couple of weeks, that amount went from $1 million to $250,000 to $500,000 to a $3.5 million bond issuance for the project. And it's been hard as hell to get the money. We're in the midst of negotiating that right now. We've got a conversation with our attorneys and the city's attorneys on Friday. And a couple of things has made it challenging. One, it's bond money. So like they should have given us general fund money. There's a difference in that. Bonds, they borrow the money, they've got to have an asset and all that stuff. General fund money is just, it's the city's money, it's taxpayer money, so we can do with it what we want to. And so right now we're in the middle of negotiating with them because they want to ding us on, they want us to have the location. We don't have a location yet. And we're trying to get the pre-development cost. So it's 3.5, we want 500,000 for pre-development cost and 3 million to set aside for construction or to leverage new market tax credits. And so we're really educating our city staff and their attorneys about how capital needs to be deployed and how flexible it needs to be so that we can do the work that we need to do. I know that as soon as the newspaper hits that Metro government gave us $3.5 million, I can leverage it immediately because that's what the local foundations are waiting on. They're getting to know me. They know me a little bit. But to say that, we've raised $800-some thousand from local philanthropy and then 3.5 from local government, I can take that to our corporate philanthropy and match that money. They're waiting to do something good. So that has been our strategy. And we're hoping not to take out many loans. We think that our community deserves this grocery store, and we've worked our tails off to make something happen that our local government hasn't been able to, and that the market hasn't been able to.
So you convinced me.
Great,
Nice.
you write the check.
Nicely done. Ben, what dots would you connect for us?
So I would, again, everything that's been said, and people are not just fed up with the broken food system. I think they're fed up with the broken system generally. And so the food system is just a part of that. And again, being that as a cooperative and as food purveyors, we've got these two really huge, powerful tools that people want. They want a more just economic system. They want things to be different than they have always been in terms of how capital is used and raised and spent. And of course, they want to eat good food, which is critical. So, even my own local co-op here was pretty much like a bunch of folks saying, well, we just want this store, so let's do it. That I think is, we have to be better earlier on. We have to get our business fundamentals together. We have to learn what we need to do, what we're going to need to open really first-rate stores, because every place deserves a first-rate grocery co-op. And we need to, I think, build more diverse coalitions, especially for some of the folks who are, I think of it as kind of the old school of the new round of co-ops, like the one that I was involved with, which was not a very diverse group and was not really pushing hard on the idea of economic or social justice. I mean, yes, it's part of our history, et cetera, but things have changed, and it's important not just to talk about it, but to be it. And when Casa said that, they can't not fund her project, well, they certainly could not fund it. but you want to go in with that attitude that this is where the world is going. This is what the world needs. And so this is where you must put your money. And have that kind of confidence backed up by the business fundamentals, by good documentation, your pro formas, your business plan, et cetera. And also with the people behind you. So a good number of owners, a good number of supporters within your community. I think those are all extremely important. And some funders don't get it. They're not there yet. I wish they were, but it's just I think the reality of the world, but other funders are getting it. And that's really important to find those funders who are beginning to realize, yeah, we got to do something more with our money than just make more money with it, which has always been the primary motivation of almost all funding channels. So yeah, I guess I'll stop there. I could keep going.
I know you could, Ben.
Yeah.
Thanks for pausing. Awesome. Great comments. I have one question in the comment about the interplay between funding the real estate versus the store. Anyone, Leela, I see you nodding your head. You want to grab that one? And then Don, I want to ask you for a quick comment after Leela, just any dot connecting from your perspective, and then we'll do a quick popcorn and probably call it a day. Yeah, so Leela, go ahead.
I think that there are probably lots of creative ways to do this, but the thing, 4 years ago when we were looking at this project and we knew that there were philanthropic dollars out in the community that would come into our project if we could find a way to bring them in. But we also knew that we actually wanted a cooperative, not a nonprofit store. We wanted an asset that the community actually meaningfully owned. So we did kind of, I think others have done this too, but I think we were one of the early ones. The actual physical building and much of the equipment is owned by a nonprofit, a 501c3, and so we were able to raise philanthropic, tax-deductible philanthropic capital to build that building. And then the grocery store operations, including all the inventory, all the labors, a lot of the non-fixed equipment, is all owned by the cooperative itself. And then that way the cooperative had less to raise, but still meaningfully owns the grocery store. And then we think our theory is that after our 7-year new market tax credit period is over, we can actually potentially have the nonprofit sell for like a nominal fee the building and all the assets to the co-op. So that was just a creative way to allow philanthropic foundations who want a tax deduction to get their dollars into a project that is not a 501c3 project, but is actually a community-owned project.
Nice. Thanks, Leela, for that. So we're going to go kind of in the lightning popcorn mode. Don, Molly, Casa, Ben, closing comment from Leela, and then JQ, we might be there. So yeah, Don, dots to connect. And you're on mute. This is our colleague Don Moffitt, who studies financial feasibility for startups. Thank you, Don, for your work in that area.
Thanks, Mark. I'm happy to be here, and I'll see what I can offer with the total of about 1 minute notice.
That's right. Yeah, perfect.
But there are a lot of different models of development. There are a lot of different approaches that groups are taking. Some of them have been mentioned, the rural co-op, sometimes a conversion, and they're looking for a more conventional product line. There are people like Casa and Leela who are working to bring access to foods in the communities that are insecure right now, food insecure. And there are other groups that are opening natural and organic, what been referred to as the old guard of the newest crop. So all of those are going to be different models, but when you're looking at conventional product lines, the lines that they're going to be more competitive, the prices are going to be lower, and debt service is, as Casa was talking about, you really have to avoid. So that means working on creative models that Leela has been talking about. It's about, these guys, like Leela and Cass in particular, they have done such amazing things in terms of figuring out how to fund. So Leela became an expert in new market tax credits, and that is no small thing. And came up, and they worked on the two entity model, where you have a nonprofit entity that's doing the project development and a co-op that's doing the grocery store development. The relationships, the time that Casa talked about and Leela talked about, the long ramp in building the relationships with potential funders, that you don't start like the day before you want to sign your lease, right? That's so important. Understanding the fundamentals that Ben talked about, that's critical. If you don't really understand, the use of the pro forma is great because it can really help you begin to understand, how is this business going to work? Writing a business plan, I would say, is going to really help you get there. I got a couple more things real quick.
3-second warning, 3-second warning, Don.
The relationships that you're building throughout the community, the stuff that Cass is doing is amazing, and it's really important. You have to have a narrative, whatever your model is, whatever you're doing, you have to have a narrative, believe in the narrative, and live the narrative, so that when you talk to people every time, they're getting the message. So that's it. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Don. So glad you're here. Hey, Molly, what's your parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I feel like I have to respond to Leila's comment about avoiding new markets tax credits.
Yeah. Fair
It's
game.
true. They add so much complexity, and it's really like, it speaks to you and your team's fortitude to navigate all of that. And it can be really expensive because you need special consultants, and it creates all of this like compliance stuff, both for you and the lender. But if your project is the right size and you hit a couple of the points, it can actually provide like quite a bit of subsidy to your real estate transaction. So I would say don't write it off necessarily if you happen to be in the right space for it.
Nice.
And the new markets tax credit allocations just came out. CDFIs like ours are looking for projects. So definitely reach out to your local CDFI or to us if you have a new markets tax credit project that's ready to go. Other than that, I just want to lift up these two projects here that they're speaking and really hitting the key points about community organizing and how the impacts of these projects are not just building a grocery store, but building a community asset and building economic democracy, which is definitely one of these amazing trends in funding that I'm seeing more and more interest in, and I'm really excited to be part of this community.
Yay. Hey, Molly, would you put the link in the chat to how to access your funding programs? Because I've been so impressed with what you've been able to do with those funds. So appreciate your involvement.
Absolutely. I am pasting in investinginfood.com right now. We're about to release an RFA for the next round of funding in the next week or so. So I would encourage you, if you're not already signed up, add your email in right there at your earliest convenience to get an email.
Great. Thanks, Molly. Casa, parting words of wisdom.
Back on the new market tax credits.
You opened up a rabbit hole, Leila.
I just said to someone, like, I'm really trying to avoid using that, just because we don't like it. You have to have debt with new markets. And so if we can get that cash from our corporate community, I'd rather do that than go through the new market tax credits, even though it kind of sounds sexy and cool, but it just sounds like debt and a bunch of attorneys to me. But anyway, I think to just really continue to hammer in on supporting local leaders who are doing the thing. It's been tough. It's been a tough 6 years. And if we would have gotten the kind of support early on in the organizing, it wouldn't have taken us this long. And so our work has been both, creating this nonprofit, incorporating the business, and educating the funders at the same time. And if we had, money early on to get somebody to be paid to do all those things, it just would have moved the process quicker. My colleague Amanda dropped in the chat, Transform Finance. They were a wonderful partner early on to help us move philanthropy. They helped to drop some seeds on them about how they can do things differently. They helped us understand finance, how money moves in our community, the kinds of questions we can ask funders. And to that point, we've just really immersed ourselves into like this like startup world, entrepreneurial world, just really to learn the language. So it's been easier for us to then go to folks who have the capital, because we've been trained up and we can talk their language, and we're getting pretty good at it, challenging those philanthropy folks. I was at a block party the other day, Amanda, I didn't get to tell you, but I saw a funder who I've been trying to get to forever, and she blows me off all the time. Like I've met her several times, and she stopped me and engaged me very coolly and got the update on the project. And I was like, as soon as I get this Metro money, I'm coming to you. I need to finish the project. And yeah, so I don't take no for an answer. They haven't said yes or no. They have refused to talk to us. And then
You were there.
She was bubbly the other day. So keep at it.
Thank you, Casa. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all your work and your leadership. Ben, 20 seconds.
Okay, I just want to make a distinction because I'm keeping an eye on the chat and there's a lot of questions about donations and nonprofit monies. Yes, but we are not talking, this is not big sale, small scale, individual donations. We are talking finding the organizations in your community that have real money that can put it forward. I'm working with one co-op right now that found that their local food pantry, which is a nonprofit, through investing and other means, has a massive amount of cash. And hey, if we can capitalize a little bit on the fact that perhaps they should be feeling a little guilty about how their nonprofit has earned all this money in the stock market, that they're looking at a $500,000 loan to a co-op. So this is what we're,
Nice.
I love hearing about, should we have a donation option? Maybe, but not so much for the, us normal folks. We're looking for the big dollars, the corporate foundations, things like that.
Thank you, Ben. Leela, you get one more parting comment because of your rabbit hole comment about new market tax credits. It's got to be 10 seconds or less.
10 seconds or less? Okay. There will come a time where if you have put enough irons in the fire, if you have built enough relationships, if you have applied for enough things, you will feel like you have all these floating pieces and you just don't know how they're going to come together. And then the key at the end will just be like finding the way that they come together, and you never know what is going to be that final puzzle piece that unlocks, because a lot of these things, there are going to be all these chicken and egg dependencies. It's going to feel like you're crazy. You're not crazy. Just like keep the irons in the fire, be persistent and consistent, keep having those 20-minute phone calls with those funders every quarter if you can. Like just keep at it, and at some point, hopefully, it'll all just kind of fall together, and then it'll be like it was always meant to be that way.
Nice. Thanks, Leela. JQ, and my handoff to you. I just want to celebrate this group that shared their perspectives and wisdom. Thank you so much. Thanks for everybody for coming on board. And what I would say from Columinate's perspective is that, because of our long history in co-op development and food co-op development, we bring a lot of knowledge and experience from our past, and yet we're also really committed to the ongoing learning because we're in some uncharted territory here, which seems like high potential for transformation, and excited to be involved with y'all on that move, creating that movement. So thank you. JQ, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you guys so much. I want to just take a moment and thank this team. I'm really grateful to Casa, Molly, Leela, Ben, and Mark for making this session happen. Clearly, it's a conversation we need to be having, and even more deeply. So I'm really grateful to them for bringing forward this topic and sharing their time with us today, from really being in the trenches and doing this work. So big round of applause to them and a thank you. And I do want to let you guys know we have 2 more sessions left in the series. They're tomorrow. And I know actually Samantha Bailey was here today. So there's going to be the Delhi weather report, a very different type of topic tomorrow. Kevin McDonald, who's a deli specialist, is going to be here talking to us about big picture, what is going on with the role of prepared food and delis in food co-ops, what changes have come up in the last 2 years that are not going away, and which things were maybe temporary, and really talk about where we're heading. So I hope you'll join us for that. And then because there were so many great topics, we have one more tomorrow afternoon, and that's going to be making your co-op loan ready with Samantha Bailey and Mark Fick from Shared Capital Cooperative. This is getting into the nitty gritty of what do these lenders and funds mean when they say, bring them a financial plan that really makes sense. What does that mean? How do you get ready to work through the loan process? And a lot of what you'll learn here will also be transferable to working with funds as well. So we hope you'll join us for those. And then we just want to take a quick second and say that we want to thank the USDA, National Cooperative Bank, NCG, the National Cooperative Grocers and Co-Bank, for sponsoring this series and making it possible. And yes, the recordings will come out Monday. I will email them to you. Thank you all so much for coming out today.
Thank you.